Also, white South Africans are not living on stolen land. They paid for this land and developed it over generations. This is a fact, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. No black tribe lived on the land prior to them developing. This whole land issue is purely based on racism, jealousy, and resentment.
Let me say, I didn't realize with South African white people are this fragile, honestly. I grew up thinking white people in South Africa are strong. Like, that's the whole mentality that I had when I grew up. I thought South African whites, know how to stand on business and things like that. The slightest provocation, they are running to Donald Trump, help. I really thought white people in South Africa are better than what they are doing right now. Trying to act as if we are after them.
Government is open about it in their rhetoric.
You seem to be a little nervous about using the phrase white people. Why don't you just say it, Ernst? It's white people he's talking about in your view, right?
Because it's not just white people, it's many other minority groups in this country as well, in particular white people. That's why it would be dishonest to say just white people. There's nuance here, Stephen. I mean, that's the whole point, that's why Afriforum says we are bringing the facts to the table. We're not a political party. If there's nuance, we bring the nuance to the table. I mean, do you have a problem with that?
Not at all. I completely understand nuance, and of course we see it in the leadership of Afriforum from time to time. The point here is that you went to Washington, you say you're so worried about the Land Expropriation Act. I'm sure it's a bill that you've studied many, many times. The fact is it talks about nil compensation in cases where land has been abandoned or is not being used productively. All of the experts I've spoken to who are neutral lawyers, they do not have a political agenda in any case, have all made the same point. As a result of the president's signing of the expropriation bill, now an act into law 2 weeks ago, virtually nothing is going to change. The US, in fact, Trump's government has the right to expropriate land in the public interest, and that's what this all talks about. Is it not the case that you've gone to the US and you've hyped everybody up, and this is the consequence?
No, that's a very disingenuous way of putting it. It's a very sneaky argument to put it even more bluntly. The issue is not expropriation with adequate compensation, as you see all across the world. The problem is the Expropriation Act enables expropriation without compensation. Now, you can play the little language game of euphemisms of nil and no compensation, but when your employer tells you, I'm going to pay you nil this year, or I'm going to pay you nil this month, I dare you to tell him that, oh, I'm so glad that it's not no salary that I'm going to be paid. Nil is a euphemism for no compensation. It just means that the government is going to do their little sums and then they're going to say, well, we've factored in our little our agenda, and that means our sums say you deserve nil compensation for your property. That is expropriation without compensation by a different name. And if your legal experts are telling you that, then they are absolutely politically biased and not playing an honest game.
My fellow South Africans, in today's video, I want us to talk about something very concerning. I mean, what is the Afriforum doing exactly? How did the Afriforum think that going to report South Africa to the United States of America is a good idea? This Afriforum, actually, I'm starting to feel like this name Afriforum, they don't deserve it because they are not for Africans at all. I think we should start calling them Euroforum or US Forum because they are clearly not Afriforum at all. I mean, why would you think it's a good idea to go running like a little child who cannot solve his own problems, running there to American report, Trump, they are doing this to white people in South. Busy spreading lies, it's pushing a false narrative. What's wrong with Afriforum? I think for Afriforum is starting to be a very big problem in this country. Everything that the majority wants in this country, Afriforum is against. Why is that? Everything that the majority wants, pay attention to Afriforum. Everything that the majority wants, they are against. Why is that? That is why there are some South Africans I saw here online starting to call this Afriforum, what they have done, they are starting to call it treason. Because clearly you don't have the country's benefit at heart. But you know, in today's video, I don't really want to speak a lot about this South Africa and America thing, because I've already dropped 2 videos on this thing. I dropped one last week and then I dropped one today around 9 a.m. So I don't really want to speak a lot. In today's video, the purpose of this video, I want you to tell me on the comment section down below, what do you think about this Afriforum thing? And how are we going to solve this Afriforum people, this problem? Because Afriforum, I think, is an NGO, but you can clearly see with these people, man, no, man. They have an agenda that they want the rest of the world to know about us as black people. That is false. Tell me on the comment section, what do you think about these people? And then let me stitch a video for you that proves this thing that is being done by the Afriforum going to America is causing Americans to start disrespecting us as South Africans. Americans now are out here acting as if they know everything about us as South Africans. They are out here now acting as if they know everything that has to do with South Africa. Busy spreading lies about South Africa. I'm going to stitch a clip right now that proves what Afriforum is doing is just trying to paint a bad picture for black people in South Africa. This woman I'm about to stitch right now, he speaks a lot of things that are false. He's even calling what is happening in South Africa white genocide. Just imagine, genocide, such a big word. But that's the narrative that is being pushed out there, as if us as black people in South Africa, we are busy trying to get rid of white people, we are busy trying to kill white people or take their houses, when we know that's not what's happening right now in South Africa. But Afriforum is out there acting as if that's what's happening in South Africa, and those Americans there believe that thing. And then Nabo, they are out here acting as if, yeah, black South Africans, they are, you know, listen to this woman, because he speaks for quite some time, so I don't want this to be a very long video. So listen to this woman, and then you tell me, you tell me on the comment section down below, what do you think about the nonsense that is being spoken by this American woman, and the narrative that Afriforum is busy pushing. You'll tell me on the comment section down below. But if you just enjoyed this video or you learned something new, please leave a like and subscribe to this channel. I would really appreciate it. But as I close, you know, let me say, I didn't realize with South African white people are this fragile, honestly. You know, I grew up thinking white people in South Africa are strong. Like, that's the whole mentality that I had when I grew up. I thought South African whites, you know how to stand on business and things like that. The slightest provocation, they are running to Donald Trump, help. I really thought white people in South Africa are better than what they are doing right now, trying to act as if we are after them as black people. Tell me on the comment section down below. There's a lot going on in this country. It's a very interesting time right now. 2025 feels like it's going to be a roller coaster ride. So I hope you got your seatbelt strapped on, because hey, we are in for a bumpy ride, I'm telling you. Listen to this woman and then tell me, what do you think about everything that he's saying. She, but it doesn't matter, because there by the states you can be a she and turn into a he. So I'm not sure if it's a he or she. So she, he, it's fine. Tell me, what do you think about him, her, on the comment section down below.
So what happens in countries when white people are in the minority? Let's do a quick case study on how it's going for South Africa. So you'd never know it because it's crickets from the Western media, but each one of these crosses, this is a 3-minute video by the way, stands for one of the over 70,000 white South Africans that has been unalive since apartheid ended. South Africa post-apartheid has one of the highest unaliving rates in the entire world. These attacks are quite obviously racially motivated and targeted, yet the US still won't classify this as the obvious genocide it is. Because they will not publicly classify it as this, white South Africans cannot seek asylum in the US, which is ridiculous. Now, my point of this isn't really to justify apartheid. I don't think that was a great system by any means. My point is more to the fact that apartheid never really ended. The biggest thing that changed is just the people doing the apartheid, but it never ended. As this comment says, under apartheid, there were 48 race-based laws. And today, there's 116 race-based laws. So it's like a double reverse apartheid. And as of Thursday, the racist ANC has voted that they can actually steal anyone's land they want without compensation and redistribute it based on equity. And if white South Africans have a problem with this, they can take it up with the same court system that ruled that calling to unalive them was not hate speech. But saying the things I'm saying is. And before you start to type that paragraph about how you don't care because it's Africa, it's for Africans, even though the law is targeted at the white South African farmers, this screws over black South Africans just as badly. And if this bill passes, it will lead to economic collapse in South Africa. That is about a 99% chance of happening. It will also destroy any investment into South Africa because no one's willing to invest in a place where there isn't secure private property rights. Also, white South Africans are not living on stolen land. They paid for this land and developed it over generations. This is a fact, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. No black tribe lived on the land prior to them developing. This whole land issue is purely based on racism, jealousy, and resentment. The apartheid regime eventually gave up power because they were told it would be better for everyone. They were outnumbered and had a bunch of international pressure to do so. So they willingly gave it up. And come to think of it, if the Afrikaners were on that land first and they built quite literally everything on it, why shouldn't they have been able to run the government how they wanted to? We need to be able to take an objective look at these things. So if you don't want to believe me, that's fine, but look up the data for yourself. Under the apartheid regime, South Africa had a strong economy and low crime rates. The prior government also invested into roads, infrastructure, and bridges that connected people and helped facilitate trade. They invested in schools and universities because they understood the value in having an educated, employable population. They built healthcare and hospitals. Just another thing that has since deteriorated. It seems to me like they actually at least somewhat cared about making a better future for all South Africans. Don't get me wrong, none of this is to say that there weren't or aren't legitimate criticisms that people were understandably upset about and led to them wanting the regime to end. But again, by every measurable statistic, they had a far better quality of living than they do now. Under the racist ANC, they have high unemployment, high crime rates, failing infrastructure, and a failing power grid. And if that doesn't sound better to you than what they had prior, it's because it isn't. The ANC to this day still blames white monopoly control and the effects of apartheid, which ended over 25 years ago. And they do this to distract from their own very obvious ineptitude and corruption, which has driven away a majority of their investors. So why should Westerners care about this? Well, the exact same thing is happening to us today. Because this is exactly what happens every single time you put incompetent people in charge and judge policies and programs by their good intentions rather than their results. These same globalists are funding and pushing it. These egalitarians still remain in control of the West today because of their refusal to acknowledge reality and also think what the long-term effects of the policies they're pushing are. They remain on track to achieve their goal of turning us all into a global Zimbabwe. They seek to destroy all natural order and hierarchy because it's a threat to their power. Because the reality is, equality has never and will never exist. And it likely wouldn't be a good thing even if it could. Unless you desire a race to the bottom where everybody globally will suffer and starve as a result. And this, my friends, is where the obsession with equity and equality quite literally always leads. Famine, economic collapse, tyranny, and miserable living conditions for all. But hey, at least they're equally miserable.